Lamar Jackson has a new look too.
Is that live? That's not
live.
That's today. Not live.
I think that is today.
Like that is this
today.
year. That's
Yes.
him look. Okay,
Producers,
that's how
is
he
that
looks
today?
now.
Yes. He looks
I like
skinnier.
it. I like the way.
All right. According to Diana Rossini, Lamar has dropped 25 pounds since his 2022 playing weight. Now 15 pounds lighter than he was last year. Quote, the word in Baltimore is this slim Lamar could be even faster than the one we've seen in years past. And Josh bounced back from a rough segment 5 minutes ago, crunched the numbers with Lamar, and it turns out he had the fewest yards per rush in his career, also the slowest top speed.
See?
2023, his top speed was only 19.62, and he only rushed for 5.5 yards. Joining us now, bulking season, is Greg Jennings. Greg, ironically, I will ask you, are you expecting this to be Lamar's best season?
I don't know about his best season. I am expecting him to continue to grow, but Lamar Jackson is going to do what Lamar Jackson has done since he's gotten to this league and got under center for the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to constantly improve. Do I believe him shedding this weight will make him a little more dynamic? I do.
It's either that suit or Greg is on, we'll just call it TRT, because that's crazy.
Because it matters. When you put on, whether it's 20 pounds of fat or 20 pounds of muscle, you change your entire being. It's a little different carrying 225 versus 205. So I think he'll be different in terms of that, getting out of the pocket, being able to be a little bit more elusive. But I think a lot of what he did last year was predicated on him truly wanting to throw the ball. Look, the reality of it is Lamar Jackson is a really good player, but I don't know if he will ever be enough when you have the Michael Jordan of quarterbacks that you have to go up against.
Well,
I just don't see him getting over that.
You said that years ago.
Yeah, I said that about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I agree. Look, I don't think he's not going to win his third MVP. Okay. So some people would say, well, how's he going to be better? He's already won 2 MVPs. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think there's some voter fatigue. Obviously, you do have the Michael Jordan of quarterbacks in the league who hadn't won it in a few years, so maybe he'll get another one. But I think for Lamar to win his third MVP, his numbers would have to be so far out ahead of everybody else.
It have to be like his first year as a starter.
Yeah, and there would I think also, Nick, there would have to be, like last year, kind of nobody that really has this incredible year. You know what I mean? Mahomes or Josh Allen or somebody like that. That said, I do think that this could be his best year. I'm going to say I think it will be his best year because I think he's a better passer than he's ever been. Now, he's still not in the Mahomes or some of the top passers, Joe Burrow category, but I think he is a better passer. Last year, career high passing yards, total yards, career high yards per attempt, career high completion percentage. So I think he's better in that regard. And I think having Derrick Henry will open up the passing game even more. But also I think he is realized. I think like all of us, everybody looked at that AFC title game against Kansas City and said, dude, why didn't you run more? And I think he now I really feel like he's like, I'm just going to do me. I'm not going to try to prove anymore that I can be this great pocket passer. I think he'll still do it, obviously, but I'm just going to do me and be my unique self. And I think that's why he shed these pounds. And I do think he will be a much more dynamic runner. If he can run for 1,000 yards, Nick, which he hadn't done in a few years, run for 1,000 yards and be just say the passer he was a year ago, then I think that could end up being his best season.
Yeah. So he is not the runner he was when he came into the league.
No.
The question is, can he regain it? And you saw last year, the longest run of his season was 30 yards. He's had 13 runs in his career longer than that. As Wilds mentioned, the fewest yards per carry. Each of the last 3 years, oddly, he has run for exactly 48 first downs. But the previous 2 years, he only played 12 games. Mm-hmm. This year, he played 16. So he was less of an effective runner this year. And this moment, Greg, in the AFC title game, to me was a eye-opener and shocking moment. That's a house call.
Yes.
And it wasn't. It's not. It was almost like he didn't even think he could.
No, he didn't even try to run away.
And so that was bad. Listen, that's Snead right there, who is an awesome player. But Snead is not like a 4-2 corner, and Snead's big and physical.
Right.
And
was he afraid of being pulled down there?
I don't know. It was so weird
like
because earlier it felt like every other moment of his career, when he sees that, he goes to the sideline and is gone.
He's never looking back.
Exactly right. And so so here is.
I wouldn't be surprised, Nick, quickly, if this is a play that kind of the light switch went on. Yeah, like.
So I want to ask Greg a question because I know this will surprise you, the audience, but I don't have as much experience with bulking as Greg does. So we're now talking about why it benefits him to lose the weight. Why did it benefit him to add the weight? If he started at 215, then got to 225, is going down. He was doing it not out of laziness. He was doing it for a reason. Was he doing it for durability purposes? What's the reason he would have wanted to add it? Because then we got to talk about, what's the downside to him losing the weight? The upside is more speed.
So definitely durability. So if you put on 20 pounds of muscle, that is just absolutely ridiculous and hard to do in a year span, and he didn't even have that much time. But anyway, if you do that, it's for durability. He was getting injured. He wanted to be more durable in the pocket. Like, he changed the way he played the game. To your point, he wasn't the Lamar Jackson of previous years or rookie Lamar Jackson, where it was like, I'm just going to do what I do best, and that's get out the pocket and beat you with my legs. He changed his style of play, which then in his mind was like, well, if I'm going to sit back in that pocket, I can bulk up a little bit more. Right. Now he's dropping this and shedding these pounds. In his mind, to your point, I'm going to get back to moving. It's easier to run. Like, it's less, like, it sounds crazy, but when you are that heavy, like, these players are anomalies. Like the DNs that run 4.4 and 4.2 and 4.3s. Like, it's ridiculous to be that big and be able to do that. It's also genetics. Lamar's genetics aren't for a big frame. So when you put that on, you're losing something. So taking it off, he's going to gain a little bit of that back.
Okay, so now.
So, okay. Let's talk about this, because there is the issue, though, that by him slimming back down, he could open himself up for injury. Now, the truth is we don't know, because certain bodies respond better. And that's kind of what Greg was slightly alluding to about, like, the genetical component, where some players, and just anyone in life really, if they are bigger and bulkier and hold more weight, hold more muscle, it's more protective of their joints, of their bones, right? A lot of people call it body armor, and that benefits you, all that type of stuff. Then you think of like LeBron James, right? That's been very protective of his basketball career. Now on the other end of the spectrum, we have a Tom Brady, right? Who's significantly thinner. I'm pretty sure if you saw Tom Brady without his shirt off, a lot of people would be like, that guy's a professional athlete and he's known to have a great body for resilience and injury prevention. Like, what? And so some of this is just genetics in terms of injury prevention. Some of it is just luck. We always love to say, well, look what LeBron James did and look what Tom Brady did. And the reality is that most likely their whole injury prevention, like 90% of it was just genetics and luck. Some of it was diet and their routine and taking care of their body, of course, and just staying in shape, relatively speaking, and conditioned. But it's not the difference between them getting hurt all the time. It's not the difference between being LeBron. The difference between LeBron and, say, Zion is not just diet and exercise, right? It's just not. That's just not the way it works. Although obviously Zion is heavy these days. And that's the thing. It could have maybe not been good for Lamar to be that heavy, or maybe it was actually more protective. And because earlier in his career, he did get banged up. This was the first year that he made it to, like, not the first year, but he played all these games and made it to the end of the season and actually was able to stay healthy into the AFC Championship game. So that matters. I'm somewhat concerned when someone is swinging in this weight, quite honestly, because, and he also said this, Greg, and he's 100% accurate, but he's not being truthful how you get there. And I'm not going to come out and just say it straight up. I'll talk around it for various reasons. But someone like these professional athletes, you have beginner gains. When you work out and you gain muscle, you can gain around 24, 25 pounds in a year, right? If you've never touched weights before, right? Think of like a stereotypical cartoon of like some skinny guy, and you start working out, and if you're doing everything perfectly and you're training enough and eating right and doing all that type of stuff, you can gain 20 to 25 pounds a year. And then like the next year, you can gain around like 12 pounds, 8 to 12 pounds. And then with each year that goes, it gets less and less and less. And the world champion bodybuilders, when they're like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years into their career, they're happy if they gain like a pound or two in a year. Okay? So being a professional athlete like Lamar Jackson, it's not hard to imagine that he had already had his beginner gains. Like there's just no way he was in the NFL and didn't already have that. You can just look at him and see that he was muscular enough. So this idea, whenever I hear an athlete, he put on 20 pounds this summer. Right, okay. 20 pounds of muscle. One, if it actually is indeed muscle, there's only one way to be able to put on 20 pounds of muscle in a summer. And that's by, again, let's just call it TRT or some other medicine that you could maybe take to give you some more energy and help you out. Like, that's how it's done. And it's indisputable too. It's not even up for debate. It's not up for debate. It's just basic science, and we know this. Look no further than the literal people, the athletes who dedicate their entire lives and careers to building as much muscle as they can, to being as big and as strong. And you have two categories. You have natural bodybuilding, and then you have just free range, like whatever, anything goes bodybuilding. That's the Arnold Schwarzeneggers of the world. So Mr. Olympia is what the main thing is called. And so that's what it is. So what was he gaining? Was it all muscle? Was it fat? What was it also? Because some people, when they gain weight, it gets distributed very nicely. There's some people who look very small, but they're very lean. And when they gain some fat, it kind of maybe goes to their stomach or goes to their thighs or goes wherever. And there's other people, you see this all the time, honestly, and you probably just don't realize. There'll be guys that like don't work out at all, but they look big and bulky. They look like kind of like big burly dudes. And it's like, oh, do you lift or work manual labor? And it's like, nah, I just drink a lot of beer and love chicken. It's just like, you hear that. I see that all the time. It's just like great fat distribution. And again, I'm not having any opinion on what type of weight Lamar gained over this all season and now lost, but also it's you just don't magically lose 20 pounds of muscle either. Your body wants to maintain that. Once it's built that muscle, like your body's not dying to say, sure, I'll lose that, because gaining muscle is brutally difficult. And so your body just doesn't give it up in a second. So it's just weird. Anytime I hear any type of weight loss like this, it's always like, what's really actually going on here? What's the motive? What do you want? And if Lamar just says, I'm just going to be me, I find that also concerning. Because Patrick Mahomes would not be winning Super Bowls if he just was him. In fact, he wins Super Bowls when Andy Reid brings him back down and controls that and says, I'm not going to have you throw for 10,000 yards and 100 touchdowns. I'm not going to have you run around and scramble for 45 minutes and throw a sidearm pass every single down. Because that is what Patrick Mahomes wants to do. Patrick Mahomes does want to play that backyard style of football where he's just running around and trying to make something out of nothing every single play. And Andy Reid is like, no. And Patrick Mahomes has won more Super Bowls doing less than doing more he did earlier in his career. And again, that's not an opinion, that's just a fact. So this idea, like Lamar, if anything, can't just be Lamar. You, of course, lean into what makes you great. But this is where good coaching really comes in to play. And good team building, quite honestly. where it's like, we know Lamar Jackson is unbelievable. We know he can rip off for a run. We know he could do all this. But we don't want a game plan around that being how we win, because we know it's not sustainable. That's how you get the situation like Josh Allen, like a Michael Vick, like Lamar Jackson. If anything, you want to do it less and use it more sparingly. Patrick Mahomes used to have to be Patrick Mahomes like 10 times a game. Now it's like 1 time a game, 2 times a game. And he's winning more. His numbers are going down. He's throwing the ball down the field less. He's checking the ball down. He's doing less to do more. And so again, that's the immaturity, and I don't blame Lamar, quite honestly, but that's the immaturity of Lamar or Baltimore, of this idea of like, well, I need to do more. You don't need to do more. People weren't saying, Lamar, why weren't you running in the Ravens game? They were saying, why weren't you handing the ball off? Which is not on Lamar. I think there was like, I forget the stats now. I used to have it all remembered now. But they had like 3 carries or something, like something outrageous. It was like, what are you doing? And no, that wasn't because of Kansas City Chiefs defense. It was bad game plan. Bad game plan. So I just think that I have high hopes for Lamar this season, because I think he is motivated, and by the fact that he did lose that weight means that he is focused and motivated, and he has a plan, and I'm definitely more than open to just see what it is, right? I'm not calling out his plan of losing weight, although I'm skeptical, because if that weight did help him stay healthy and upright, then I'm concerned. And if he's trying to go back in time and say, I'm going to be year 1 or year 2 or year 3 Lamar, I don't love that. That's not progressing. Patrick Mahomes would not have won the Super Bowl this year if he tried to bring back the clock to 2019. If he kept trying to push the ball downfield and try to act like he still had Tyreek Hill and a true prime Travis Kelce, that would not have worked. It would have not have worked. But instead, and Nick Wright even pointed this out, and he was correct, Patrick Mahomes was just doing what he needed to do to win those games. And that's why his numbers weren't through the roof. And I think that's a pretty accurate observation to a degree. So I just think that Lamar and the Ravens need to be smart. Work smarter, not harder. So, yeah, I don't know. I have to think about this more and what this means for the future. I think, of course, the Ravens are going to win games. I think, of course, they're going to be competitive. But I just think if your whole game plan is around, and listen, if Lamar Jackson lost that weight and now he becomes lightning quick and unstoppable, uncatchable, and he has still improved his throwing over the years, then yeah, that'll be really fascinating to see. And I'm all for that. I just think it's just, I don't know. Put it this way. This is the final statement I'll make. Lamar Jackson was not 25 pounds too heavy, and that's why he lost against the Kansas City Chiefs last season. That's the reality. If he was 25 pounds lighter, he doesn't just now win that game. I do not believe that to be true. I just do not. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Is the best yet to come for Lamar Jackson? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.